Okay, so let's get into your movement assessment. So Bernice, we'll kind of just go through a list of kind of checks and balances to see where we're at. Obviously, coming off a knee surgery, that's going to obviously bring up tendencies and patterns that probably aren't the healthiest, which is fine because you're now looking forward, building strength, building strong movement patterns, hopefully with the awareness that I bring through this assessment, and hopefully it serves you in your endeavor to play college soccer. So let's start. The first thing we do, having the body here, we're going to look at the feet. So are the feet straight? So this foot straight, this foot not so straight. These are the little details, and it's not surprising because this is our injury. And so what we look at the feet first, because all the athletic action, all the playing, everything starts with our feet touching the ground, and how our feet touch the ground and the shapes we make, the way we create pressure on our feet. This is important, really important. Obviously, everything's connected, and this kind of assessment looks at a global picture of how your body's functioning as a whole. So a whole global movement pattern. A lot of physical therapists, they look at like, oh, let's strengthen all the muscles around the weak part, right? So if this is our injury, we're going to start strengthening, this muscle, these muscles, the muscles in the back, everything in the back. We're going to focus on this whole other leg. And this is great. It helps. Being stronger is always better. But we're going to look at addressing the system, the entire system as a whole. So now let's look at the arches. And so I see a tiny arch here, tiny arch there. And would I say they're maintained? Not amazing, not like defining arch. Let's see if we can see. And the surface is a little bit, spongy, so your feet sink in a little bit. But even then, we can see how weight is being distributed, and and that is the pressure we're creating. And our arches are pretty flat, sunken in, and not very defined. But we'll work on that, and that will be okay. Let's look at the Achilles. And I know you have a little bracelet thing around your ankle, but this Achilles looks like it has a slight curve, where this one, the other one, looks a bit straighter, a bit more straight. Though I am noticing a bit of a mark on there, and I've had this from running and playing soccer, where I get these kind of abrasions or kind of tightness, even tendonitis in my Achilles. And so this is a little bit of a concern to me. Hopefully they don't get swollen or anything when you run. I don't know if you feel like your calves get tight. I know you haven't been running, but these are things to look at. Like, are the calves getting tight? Is there a lot of tightness throughout these areas that are causing the Achilles to be stressed? I've had this. And so, I don't know. But that one looks okay. And the other one looks, it's hard to say, but it looks okay too. It might have a slight curve. But we want them straight. All right, let's go back. Look at the knees. So are the knees straight? And the knees look pretty straight. Oh, sorry. They look good. This one, yeah, it looks good too. So straight knees, that's good. Let's look at our vertical alignment. And I know you have a little bit of a baggy sweater on, but your vertical alignment looks good. So we're standing in pretty healthy vertical position. When we go to the side, this looks good too. So yeah, the vertical is not bad. From here down, I mean, it's slightly, if we go perfectly straight here, yeah, it's not perfect. Let's try that again. Let's see. Right from there. It's not bad. Pretty good. Maybe a little forward. And by that I mean your head is slightly farther forward than your feet, right? But it's not bad. That kind of alignment, it can depend on a couple things, but a lot of it's just compression in the spine. Let's see how we look on this side. This side looks maybe a little better. Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's just how we balance ourselves, and it's not bad at all. Draw that. So you stand pretty straight, and that looks good. Let's go back to the front and look at the shoulders. So across here, our shoulders are pretty good. I like to see that, and that will show that we'll probably be pretty good through our hips. And so that's a good starting point. We already kind of looked at the spine and the ear, hips, and shoulders. And there, you're just a little bit forward, but it's not bad. But overall, not bad at all. The spine looks good here. Because if we just look down again, that's pretty good. So just a little bit forward, but not bad. Okay, let's move on. Let's address the squat. And I think I had mentioned, I had asked you what do you think is your weakest movement. Oh, we'll do the hinge first because that's coming up. Okay, so before we get in the squat, we'll jump into the hinge. All right. Let's go back. Okay. Right as we go into our hinge, look at this. I love this. So we go, before we go up, we're going to set our feet like you're really aware. Look at this. That right foot is pointing out, right? And then you're like, okay, now I'm going to move. Look at that. Rotate, internal rotation. Super, super good. And you straighten both your feet. Kind of getting set. And as we go down, we're straightening both our feet. This is strong. again, we've talked about are the arches there, and I can see a little arch here. You've created that. The other one, we're a little bit flat, but this is good. The other thing we want to see is going up a little bit, and this is a little bit harder to see, but as our knees go back, they're straight, but what we really want is internal rotation. We want them going in. And I don't see a ton of that, but I do think I see a little of that. So a tiny bit of internal rotation, really good. Really, really good. And look, our length looks like we touch our toes at least. Are we getting our hands completely flat to the ground? Not yet, but I think we bring a little awareness and a little bit of strength into this back chain, like opening up this area, and figuring out how we get our ankles going. Opening all these areas, we'll get more length through the back, and we'll get, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to get your hands to be completely flat on the ground here, both of them. And then we can also like look at is our neck tight? Are we relaxed up there? So I think from a starting spot, our hinge is really good. Really, really good. Okay, I'll see you. Then here, legs straight. Yeah, I think the knees going in. Are we releasing in? I think ever so slightly. I like it. Right there. Just ever so slightly, we have a little internal release, and that's good. So the hinge looks pretty good starting. Love how the feet went straight on all the hinges. That's good. Now let's get into the squat. Okay, so we take our stance, and then immediately, right, we take our stance, and we went from straight feet, and to set up for our hinge, we go immediately in that external rotation is what we want, but we set up this foot and this foot out slightly. And when you can already start seeing this unevenness in our legs, right in here, right? So if we really draw a straight line across, there's just slight off. And so we kind of just our setup and our initial movements which are really important, because these are the movements we don't even think about. These are the movements that just happen naturally. These ones are tough. And we have this initially we have this good look of external rotation. So the knees are going out here. We want that. But then you'll see they dump in and collapse inward, and that's a problem, especially on the one that's recovering. No surprise, but this is something we definitely want to clean up. And look at our feet too. This is the bigger issue, is that our inside ankle bones are collapsed in here. So we're not keeping strong feet. Of course, without the strong feet, the action is limited, and it's going to, show patterns that aren't optimal and patterns that are going to eventually lead to potential injuries. But I do like this. When we look at, so how low do we get? We don't get all the way down. Like, we want to get even deeper into this squat. But one thing that's good is that we maintain this straight back. All right. So learning how to get more back out of this and deeper, it's all going to start when we are able to unlock our feet and get proper shape and pressure of our feet, then the rest of it's going to align up for us. So again, there's good things happening with your body, really good, strong things, and then just a few weaker things. Like here we can really see how our legs have this kind of like off. And they're nothing's going to be perfectly balanced, but what I'm looking at here is the real thing is this inside ankle bone is low, and we want the inside ankle bone high. And then from that, the setup just makes it difficult. We get a little bit lower into that one, right? We're using the muscles well, but the setup has just made the whole thing less optimal for you. Okay, let's get into the walk, because we're not running yet. Okay. So now when we look at the walk, here, this is the thing we see. We see that the arch isn't maintained and we're landing inside ankle bone low. That left leg a little bit better. There's a baby arch in there. So not surprising, that side's a little better. Let's look at the release. Yeah, much better. We want this release out, so we want this releasing away. So we have a tiny bit of that, but it's stuck, right? It doesn't go much more than the tiny bit. Let's see the release of this other leg. And that one, we're stuck in right there. Not much, right? We go back, not much. Our inside ankle bone on our left is a little better, and our right, when we land, yeah, it's stuck down, and we want the opposite. So the feet are kind of like flat tires right now for us. And driving or riding a bike on flat tires, it's tough. Once we get those tires inflated by showing you how to pressurize the proper shapes of your feet, it's going to be a game changer for you. I like the left side, obviously our stronger side. Good shapes. Let's see if we release out. We're coming through. Yeah, slight. I can see the toe is pointed slightly out. And we want that. We want that out to in release pattern. And I see that out pattern is strong. It's a strong pattern. Like your body can do this stuff. We just need to bring awareness to it. Yeah, I love this. Like straight foot. All right. And we have that out pattern. So we have these, but also we have just some weakness in a couple spots. Ankles, knees, and over time, this stuff, if it's not addressed, it will add problematic to our movement. I see a lot of healthy patterns, and then just these few weak ones. I'm repeating myself, but yeah, let's put together a moment to work out, and I start showing you how this training works, and we clean this whole thing up. Really working on our ankles and our knees, and the whole time you'll be building strength by creating the right shapes, putting the right pressure into these shapes, and at the same time looking to develop length and decompress at the same time. So it's not like any work training that you've done before, and we start from the ground up. We're learning to move again from the ground up like we did when we were babies. We couldn't even crawl yet, and we were on our stomachs. Then we'd roll onto our backs, and we'd find developing strength in these muscle groups before we even add movement or locomotion. And then when we do that, we start crawling. And so this is part of the training. Before we can get to walk and run, we have to develop the strong foundations and the right shapes, pressure, and length. Then we'll add the movements, and then you'll be good to go. And what's really cool about this stuff is I show you the training and you just take it with you. You add it to your normal lifestyle, and it really isn't anything that's going to just like fatigue you. So you could do this training as like a pre-activation to all the soccer you're going to do. You just add it into your routine. And it doesn't take hours. It takes, 15, 20, 30 minutes of work, maybe an hour at first. But once you learn the exercises and I give you the exercises, the duration of the exercises, and where to go, you just fly through it. And it's also something that we can do remotely. Like we could just meet on Zoom and I can go, okay, these are your new exercises. You already know this, this, and this. Do that, that, and that. And it's easy once you start learning it. So we can learn it over the next month with a few sessions, and then you just take it with you and go. All right, I hope this helps. Yeah, let's see if you have any questions and concerns, and see if we can find a time to start training.